Coming up on Poltax TV, it's another episode of our new game show, Political Football, with your impartial host, lovable Gary Lineker, who never keeps his opinions to himself. Though since he's being paid over £1 million a year in TV licence fees, perhaps he should. But first, it's time for a special investigative reportski on the Civil War north of the border in Stalinland. Ever since Nikolai Sturginski announced her resignation, who fucking Ray, the SNP brown shirts have been fighting like rats in a tartan sack over who should succeed her. There are 3 candidates to be First Minister of the People's Undemocratic Republic of Jokistan. Wee Katie Forbes, who's a Christian, doesn't believe in gay marriage and thinks only women with vaginas are women. Humus Useless, who's a Muslim and a Republican, who says he supports gay marriage but didn't actually vote for it because he had a really important meeting that day that he just couldn't get out of. And the other one, some Hackett Karen Gillan lookalike. If things had been left up to the SNP Politburo, there wouldn't have been a leadership contest, and it certainly wouldn't have been conducted in public. They wanted it held behind closed doors, which tells you all you need to know about their contempt for democracy. The current SNP Civil War was inevitable. After years of building the party around the cult of personality of first Alexei Salmonellovich and then Nikolai Sturginski, now they've both gone, it's left a leadership vacuum that only the inferior talents of their minions can hope to fill. Like the Soviets they take their inspiration from, the McStalinists aren't big on succession planning. The McStalinists can't run the country because they're no interested in running the country. Any sensible separatist would realise that if you make a success of running things, you can demonstrate how Jockland would be better off on its own and convince people to vote for it. But for the SNP brown shirts, the only thing that matters is independence from the bastard English, which means being subsidised by Brussels instead. That obsession with independence blinds them to the need to not fuck things up, like the Ferguson's Ferry fiasco for instance, or the missing £600,000 donation for a second independence referendum that never happened, that the donors can't have back because the SNP have already spent it on something else. Sorry. Not fucking things up simply doesn't matter to the SNP, because they're pathologically obsessed with separatism to the point of mania. Salmond and Sturgeon have, between them, exposed the McStalinists for who they really are. Deranged racists whose bigotry blinds them to everything except their pet obsession. They got their precious referendum in 2014 and had a temper tantrum when they lost and threw their toys out the pram. As for who's going to win the leadership contest, well, we all know that Humus Useless is who the SNP Politburo and Sturgeon want to win. But even if wee Katie Forbes does beat him, the SNP are fucked. The truth of Scottish politics is that the SNP only rose to power because the Labour Party fucked itself over the Iraq War, and lefty jocks all over Jockland jumped ship to the SNP in protest and stayed there. If Labour can get its shit together, the SNP will return to the days of all their Westminster MPs travelling in the same taxi. Speaking of MPs, Munter and Rugmuncher Mary Black let slip that the alphabet people will split from the SNP if Forbes wins. So let's hope she does. So much for the tolerance the LGBT thugs keep telling the rest of us we need to show to them. There's not much tolerance in display from Two-Face Mary Black, is there? But then she's an anti-English racist, so we shouldn't be surprised that she's anti-Christian as well. The Tartan Taliban establishment are quite happy to be led by a Muslim who gives in to pressure from his local mosque, but we can't have a Christian in charge, because her religion might influence our politics, whereas his obviously doesn't. Whoever wins the SNP leadership, it doesn't really matter. Because the SNP, the bigoted, racist SNP fuckwits, are fucked. Since they can't get independence, they'll probably do the next best thing. Take a leaf out of Putin's playbook and invade Newcastle and annex it. Welcome to the McMuppet Show.